All right, and this will be the opening home screen for NAV18. For those of you who have attempted to log in and so far and have had success, this is good. If you've made it to this page, it means you successfully logged in. If you had any trouble, you may have found yourself in a position where it asked you to select a server. You might have had a prompt where you came in, and this was your initial set, which said navskarnickwines.com/test. If that's been your experience, you just need to remove test and type in prod and hit the tab key, and this will populate the production environment. Give me 1 second here. I seem to be getting myself stuck. So this will be the home screen as you log in. If any of you are getting to that test screen as an initial setup, just delete the word test and enter the word prod, P-R-O-D, hit tab, and you can select Michael Skurnik Wines from there as your company. But this should be the login for everyone on the sales team logging in. National team has a different profile, and as you log in, you'll see it'll be a little bit different, and it'll say national sales up here in blue text. For this testing, so I'll show everyone a demonstration of all the different fields in here. Most important, I think, is for everyone to get an idea of how to utilize these. We'll go over some basic terminology and all the different fields that are available for us to use. The system is certainly more powerful. For those of us who have been testing and working in this environment in the last 3 months, it's really quite powerful. In fact, there hasn't been a time that I've wished I could go back and use the old NAV 5.0 system. So most important is that you take the time and start to get used to this. We are now in our 5th day of the live system. In this process, it's never really quite complete. Over the next 6, 8, 10 weeks, we're going to continue to be working with our developers. Right now, it's in a very good working system. There haven't been any major roadblocks or hiccups. There have been a couple orders that have gotten held up. There have been a few things that have taken us a longer time to complete, but no showstoppers, as they say. There's nothing that's prevented us from doing any business, which is really successful in sense of a go live. The developers who are here and working with us have done a lot of these and gave us some good feedback, saying that basically what we had gone through was pretty successful. They hadn't seen a company go through this smooth a transition. So that's both comforting for us to hear and good for the rest of the team in recognizing the capabilities that we've got out the gate. As far as sequence of the demo today, we are going to go through. We're going to go through basically along this navigation pane. We're going to go through customers, items, item with pro, sales orders. We'll touch on bill and hold, and then we'll look at sales return orders, posted sales invoices, and credit memos. This is your home screen, and to give you kind of a quick navigation, these tiles, we haven't really built all the customization and all the functionality in here yet. So though they look attractive and everyone would love to jump into 999 plus contacts and 168 open sales orders, there are some filters in here that are a little wonky. So I'll show you, I think the best way to proceed here is using this navigation pane and a search functionality that exists here on the top right. This search bar will bring you to anything you'd like to search within the system that is not on an individual card level. So if we were looking for an item, let's say that we were looking for Gobelsberg Rosé, Gobelsberg will not show up here because that is an individual card level. But if I were looking for an item, I could type in item, and on items table, this would bring me to the items table. If I were looking for an individual customer, let's say that I was looking for the wine library will not show up because it's an individual card level. But if I were looking for customers, I could type in customer. I can see anything that has customers in it, and the first one here is customers table. So as you get more familiar with the system, or you might be in one screen and quickly want to navigate or jump to another, this is an easy place for a launchpad for searching the whole system for either report names, lists, or lists of cards. So here we're on a customer card list. But for an easy access, you can always use this navigation pane. I'm going to use some terminology here that'll be helpful as we get to a point of doing some customization and to make sure we're speaking the same language. So I'll be introducing some simple terminology that'll help us speak the same language as we're looking. This is our navigation pane. This is your home tab. And here in this role center, our home screen, we can click on customers to do our first search. I just want to remind everyone that I appreciate everyone staying on mute so that if you have any questions, everyone can hear. If you'll just unmute yourself if you have a question, feel free to interrupt so I can make sure that we make this as dynamic as possible. I want to make sure that I'm addressing all your questions. Certainly I had a good practice on Friday with the team who's here in the office, but I want to make sure that everyone here, if you've got a question, that you've got an opportunity to speak up. So unmute yourself if you have a question and interrupt as needed. So our customer list here, if we wanted to look, we've got a number of fields here, similar to what we had in the old system, customer number, DBA, corporate name, all of our address fields, city, state, zip, salesperson code, salesperson 2 code. Again, we are within Ryan O'Rourke, so everything here is going to be filtered to rep number 134. Sales region codes, you've got credit class and historical credit class, credit limit, sales, balance due, phone number, contacts. So as you notice, as we're scrolling over, we built in a freeze pane here. So you've got a freeze pane after the customer number and DBA, so that even as we're scrolling over and looking at credit limits, here I can quite easily see that we have a $7,500 credit limit for Bose. As far as all the fields that are available here and customizing the fields, we are actually keeping the system on a lockdown for the first 2 months. Not to be a punishment, but the idea is that as you have questions and are asking anyone in the office, whether it's myself, David Skurnick, Matt DeMarco, or Terhark, anyone who might be giving you a hand, it'll be helpful if we're all looking at the same fields in the same places without doing too much customization. So that if you run into a scenario and you say, I don't have these fields or this isn't available to me, we realize that it's not that it's a design issue or a permission issue, it's just that you've hidden something. So for that reason, we're going to keep everyone looking at the same fields for the first 2 months. If you find that there's something critical that you're missing, let me know and I might be able to upload that for everyone to be able to view. I want this view to be more overly inclusive rather than exclusive. So we will probably have here too many fields that won't apply to each of your individual markets or your individual customers. For now, we'll ask you to bear with that as you get used to it for the first 2 months, and we'll let you know probably about April 1st, we'll release that and we'll show you how to make those customizations. But in that, for now, we've got a freeze pane here on the first 2 columns, which allows us to scroll through and see all these fields and how they relate to our first 2, customer number and customer name. One of the biggest new changes and new features here in the new nav is that you can now sort. You can sort and filter on any of these fields. So if I were Ryan and looking through here, I could filter. Let's say that he was planning a day and working with spirits, and he wanted to know which of his accounts synced up with Justin and which synced up with Ginger. He could click on salesperson 2 code. This is sorting up. This is sorting down. And here he can see sales rep 602. If he wants to drill down, anytime you see an individual field underlined, he could click on the underlying table. I guess he can't see the underlying table. 602 is Justin Briggs. 605 is Ginger, and 606, I believe, is Chad Walsh. I'll make sure that we actually get a fully visible table here, because you want to be able to know who your salesperson to matched up code is. Similarly here, if you were looking to filter or sort, if you're looking to filter and sort within cities, here you can see that everyone here is in New York. He's got one account in Brooklyn, one account in Long Island City. Here you could also look by sales. So here you could take sales and sort up and sort down, and you can see your top ranking sales. This is a good way of getting a quick overview or ranking system of your customers based on sales. Just as a reminder, all the sales that are in this system have been pulled over from February 1st. So there's no inventory or there's no sales history that comes prior to February 1st. You will have old invoices or open credits that haven't been applied. And those, you might see some history of those dating back 1, 2, or 3 months. But there's no cumulative history brought over from the old system. Your old system, NAV 5.0, will continue to be accessible to you. At any time, you can open it up and using the same credentials. Nothing has changed in there. It was frozen on January 30th, but all the same information is in there. So if you need to go and access your history, you can always open up, look at old item sales history and customer sales history. For reporting, that's going to merge those. Nicole Wallach and Andrew Shapiro are building reports to merge those two. And much of our sales history is going to be used through Jet Reports for the ongoing 2, 3, 4, 5 months as we start to build those two histories together. You'll notice that this system will start to populate a lot more data within the first 60 days of business. And once you go through 2 full cycle counts, I think you'll see a pretty good rhythm for how your customers are operating, and most of the items that should be in their recent sales history, which should be populated within 2 months. For looking year over year, it'll be important to log back in to NAV 5.0. So if you were looking to see what, this summer, you want to see what your customers were doing last summer, it'll be important to log back in to 5.0 to see what your sales were for last summer.
Dan, how do we find out what the customer bought in the last couple of months? How do we check the personal history of one customer?
So in order to look up one customer from the previous few months, you can still log into NAV 5.0. And I'll put in a plug here for Pocket Advantage. While we were doing our shutdown for the go live, the team from Inventive behind Pocket Advantage mapped all of our sales history with the new numbers with sales history that went back 13 months. So if you are still looking at all of your customers in Pocket Advantage, you can still see a full 13-month sales history. So that's pretty powerful, and that's more information that you'll find in one place than you would find in NAV18. But if you want the raw hard data, you can still log into NAV 5.0. So what you've got here, so for all of our customers, if we wanted to, I'll also introduce you to some of the fields outside of these fields in the customer card. This top portion here, this is called the ribbon, and on the ribbon we have some good information for you to see. If we look at Clock Tower, and we wanted to get some statistics, what had been the former F9 statistics are now F7. If you click on statistics, this will open up to show you their current balance, outstanding balance, credit limit. I can also scroll down and open up monthly sales. So I can see monthly sales that were recorded here for January and February. January sales, these are open invoices that either had not been paid or credits that have been applied now in the month of February. So that's why you'll see some January sales history starting to populate. But otherwise, so far, month to date, $3,076 in February of 2019. Sales comparisons. This information will be useful for us in the future, but as you can imagine, we don't have information to compare from 2018, so we're not going to be able to see any trend lines. But as we get on next year, we will then be able to make these kind of comparisons. But unfortunately, at this time, this sales comparison feature is not going to be useful just yet. The next thing we're able to see here is ledger entries. So this is individual item ledger entries from the customer. If I click on item ledger entries, it'll show me just like it showed in the old system. Item ledger entries from all the movements of inventory. So here I can see 2/5, 2/7, 2/8, and 2/12 posting dates, and I can see the items that corresponded. Our invoiced quantity here, this is all in bottles. It looks like here our sales amount and unit amount in case are matching up. This is an error that occurred at the end of last week. We need to get this updated. This shouldn't be the amount in dollars as it is here on the left. This should be in cases. What this will give us here, this field, once we get it updated later this week, will give you the case fractions, cases and bottles with the tilde that we used to have in the old system. That'll match quantity invoiced. So if Mount Jefferson Pinot Noir is a 12-pack, this unit amount case would show as a 1 case depletion. All the other information mapped here should be quite similar to what we had before. So here you're able to see sales channel, this went to a customer as a sale. If this were bill and hold, these would be marked and remaining quantities would be here. If an order was canceled, here you can see that you have a Bien Nacido Chardonnay West Block and Bien Nacido Old Vine Tyler that were canceled. If we wanted to open any one of these invoices, looking here, I could hit Control-I or Show Invoice. And in fact, anytime that there's a keyboard shortcut, if you hover over an icon here, you can see Control-I, and that will open up the invoice card in this case. As we're looking here at the invoice, this shows us the invoice number, the customer, posting date of 2/12, and the original source SO number. Under lines, this is actually probably a useful demonstration for you. As many of you get into the system, you'll notice that by default, your lines, it only shows 2 different lines here available. If you wanted to expand this out, just recognize that lines, this is a fast tab. This fast tab ends where invoice details begins. So if I hover just above invoice details, I'll get this icon here. In order to move and adjust columns, I can scroll down, click, hold, and scroll down, and this will open up the number of lines available for us to see. So here I can see that.
Dan, is there any way to actually see the actual invoice or generate the actual invoice?
Yeah. So here, this is giving us the same kind of view we would have seen if we were accessing directly through NAV. If I wanted to see this as a PDF, in the Actions tab, you can go to Print. And from Print, this is a confirmation screens here. But here, I can either print out onto a printer or I can print to PDF. Printing to PDF will show us the invoice as it's generated and printed here if we were to mail a customer an invoice, or for Fun Luck deliveries, they're now using our PDF, so that this should look the same. If we open PDF, open the file, this PDF looks just like as it did in the old system, where you still have sold to, shipped to, invoice number, customer number, shipment date, invoice due date, remit to address, salesperson, original sales order number, total case tabulations, and total due. What's also nice here, it'll give us that same summary here. We can see the total here at $816, totaling up these 2 lines. The rest of these are some fields that are really mapped towards shipping and billing, some informational fields. The one that might be more applicable for most of us is looking at the ship to, and this is just a confirmation that there was not an additional ship to code. if you have customers that have multiple ship tos, this is where you would look to verify the ship to address and ship to code in case something might have gone to a store or a warehouse and vice versa. Other than this, this should be most of what we would need to access here from a posted sales invoice. So I'm going to bring this back, click OK. This will close. This brings us back here to item ledger entries. As we're looking here at item ledger entries, there are a few more things for us to look at. We looked at show invoice here on the ribbon. We have a few other fields here. But most of these are really just clearing filters and refreshing should we have any issues. But here on the ribbon, you have the ribbon here on the top. You have fact boxes here on the right. And a fact box, basically a quick snapshot of anything related to these item ledger entries. So in this case, these are related to the items that we have listed on this that we're currently selected to. So here we're currently selected on Mount Jefferson Cuvée. So this will give me a quick note that we have 139 cases and 8 bottles available, 145 and 8 bottles on hand, 6 on sales order, and then it'll give us our highlighted quick pricing. So New York 1 bottle, 1 case, 3 case, local New Jersey 1 case, 3 case, and CT 1 case. PA on-prem shows us that we don't have PA pricing in for this item. The national team will have New York 1 case pricing, national warehouse plus 56 case and 224 case, national DI pricing. Those will be filled out here in lieu of the other quantity discounts of New York and New Jersey. What's nice here is this is not necessarily the full and complete list, but this is meant to be a quick guide and a quick reference. So as you're looking through these items, you can see what the prices are. This is similar to what in NAV 5.0 had been the horizontal pane at the bottom. So you can see these will update as we select each item. If we're looking at Duke de Romay, let's say that we wanted to expand out this item description, you can just click and drag, holding this out so you can see any one of these fields in longer sequence.
Dan, going back to the fact boxes, will there be a chance to change what shows up there moving forward for things that are irrelevant to certain people?
Going forward, we will. We're going to keep these pretty standard for these first 2 months. But certainly, if New York pricing, New Jersey pricing, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, any of those are not applicable, I'll show you. We'll do another demo. I'll show you how to adjust columns and adjust these fact boxes with some quick video that I'll send out to everyone, so they can then customize it in a way that makes sense for them, so that it's more comprehensive. That way, if you're looking at it from New Jersey, you can add in a few more quantity discounts in New Jersey and remove some of the ones that were available in New York.
And then I know this is jumping the gun now. When that does become available, will, like in the old NAV, will these things be refreshed where we're going to have to reset them all over again?
Yeah, great question. No, these will be standard. These will be set up. The ZUP file that we used to have, which basically gave everyone the same default, and anytime something was updated anywhere on a particular card, on a particular field, it would reset back to factory settings. That is not the case here going forward, which that alone should make everyone pretty happy. So good question. Once you set it up, you should only have to set it up once. Below the item list fact box, we have another fact box for item attributes. We'll go into this as we get into the item list. But these are basically attributes that we have been able to assign ourselves in NAV 5.0. Anytime we wanted to add fields or add new selections available under a field, we would have to loop in our developers, pay the developers to make these modifications for us. It was a cumbersome process. Item attributes is basically something that's allowing our brand management teams to have more flexibility in adding new, if you will, essentially hashtags that are applicable to any of these items. So, for example, color. We now have white, rosé, and red. We've also created a new color, orange. It used to be that we would have to go to the developers for that. So now that we've created orange, we can then task the brand managers to go and tag anything that is classified as orange with that new color. If we wanted to create a new field, such as wooden case, yes or no, that's something that we could then apply, and every brand manager could go through their full inventory and tag anything that comes in a wooden case, which would be helpful when selling to retail and looking for something that comes in that type of box. That's something now that we can also add in here and customize ourselves without going to the developers. So this is where you'll see things that have some flexibility in what they are, such as appellations, agents, grape varieties, RS levels, portfolio. So these are all the ones that are tagged to this specific item. We'll go into the item list, and from there you'll see all the ones that are potential or available, but these are the ones that are tagged here for Duc de Romay. While we're in here, we should also talk about some of the filtering and sorting that's available. So if we wanted to sort this by item number, you could click on item number and sort up or sort down, which is a helpful way of getting yourself acclimated with these items. Let's say that you wanted to search a customer sales history and they wanted to know just the items that they're buying from the US. We haven't looked at this yet, but we can apply filters using this pane, and you'll see this same pane in just about every table here in NAV18. You'll see that this is currently set to posting date, the first field here. I can drop down and select any one of these available fields. So here I can select item number, and if I wanted to filter to just items coming from the US, I could type in item number US star, enter, and this filters our selection just to items beginning with US star. The same searching functions we used before with asterisks, greater than, less than, the vertical bar, all those same search functions work the same in 5.0 as I do here. So if I wanted to look for everything from US Tyler, or actually just to make a short list, let's look for anything from Tatomer and from Christum. So in this case, I could do US-TAT star, and I can do the vertical bar, and US-CRI star, hit enter, and this gives me Tatomer and or Christum. So this is a good way of being able to continue to filter within, even here within item ledger entries. To release that, I simply click on the red X and it deletes those filters. If you wanted to look at all of your item ledger entries, not just for this specific customer, right here you see that built in, because we access this through a customer, you'll see that this is filtered on source number 13194, which is clock tower. If I were to delete this, now this opens up all my item ledger entries for everyone under Ryan O'Rourke. All item ledger entries tagged under Ryan O'Rourke. So if I wanted to analyze some of my own sales, not specific to clock tower, I could then use the same filters that are available here. And if I just wanted to see all my sales as Ryan O'Rourke selling from the US, I can type in US star. And this gives me just a sales history of items that I've sold from US. I can also exit out, filter to FR star, and this gives me just items sold from France.
Dan, how do you put in a time frame?
Time frame is also a good question. So we can do we can look here for posting dates. So if I'm looking for posting dates, seeing here that we have, it looks like we have dates. Let's look for anything after 2/8. So anything from this week. So we can add a filter here. We can look at posting date, and we can look for greater than 2/8/2019. And this will filter to dates greater than 2/8/2019.
Does the old system of putting a star in for all products or all customers still apply? And does the double dot on a time frame still apply?
I believe the double dot still applies. Let's give this a try. The same for customers. The star will always give you everything. In this case, if we didn't put anything, it should also show us all customers. So here we put in source type customer, but we didn't put any customer limits. If we were to add in and we see source number, which is customer number, and I leave it blank, it's going to keep all customers here. If I wanted to filter it, I could filter it further by putting in an individual customer.
Do you also have to put in your own salesman number?
You will not. It actually looks like this filter has been relieved. So we're seeing here in item ledger entries more than just Ryan's sales, because Ryan's not working with Cap Cork and Seller, and he's not selling to Joel Schott. So it looks like this actually.
I thought everybody did.
Yeah. So this will get cleaned up. But everything once we get this cleaned up, just seeing this now, this will only be filtered to just your customers. Let's go look at a date range, because that was another good question. So let's look at posting date, and let's see if we can find 2.5 to 2.8. So 02, 05, 2019, ... 2.8, 2019. And it looks like that works. So using the two dots will give us an interval. So a date interval. And if I wanted to put these into posting date order, I can sort up or sort down by all the criteria in here.
Right. Can you also apply that to cash applied?
Cash applied. So this was a good question from Friday. I need to learn how to do cash applied, which I haven't done in here. I believe that's transferable. I'm going to send out an update because the team on Friday asked the same question, and I have not had time to connect with Jim for looking at cash applied and looking at commissions. So I will send out an update, but I believe all of that works using the same functionality. If I'm looking at this list, and let's say that I had worked this down to we can filter. Let's say in this situation, we're going to filter back to Ryan O'Rourke. Anytime you'd like to filter, you can add filters using filters here. We can click on Add Filter and add another level. But if you're looking at something that you already want, maybe you want to filter on just actual sales, or in this case, I just want to filter this back to Ryan O'Rourke. If you right-click, one of the things you can do is you can filter to that individual value. Filter to this value. If I were clicked on it, I could also click Alt F3. I click on this, and without having to enter it up here, it's going to populate that as my main filter here at the top. So here I was able to apply a filter for 134. So let's say that I was looking at sales rep 134. This is Ryan O'Rourke with sales between the dates of 2/5 and 2/8. And I wanted to send this off. Maybe I wanted to send it to Excel for myself to work on later. Maybe this is a list that I'd now like to send to a customer. Anytime I'm sending something to Excel, you can click on this blue arrow in the top left. That pops down, and we can do print and send. And if we're going to send to Excel, you can click on Send to Excel and open it up. And this puts everything straight into Excel. In a table format, mind you, so even more helpful for them being able to do some filtering and sorting from here. So with here, if I wanted to, now that everything's in here, I wanted to sort by source name, I could go into data, sort, and sort by source name. A to Z, click OK, and everything resorts. So this is a pretty dynamic way of looking at item ledger entries, a field that in 5.0 had been pretty static for everyone. So I urge everyone to spend some time looking in here, relieve some of the filters, add some new filters, send these to Excel, and learn how to manipulate from there. But this is a big step in giving us a lot more flexibility than we had in the old system. We have a few reports in here. The reports are we're still working and developing those. We've been prioritizing building out the JET reports. These reports, customer payment receipt, this might be where we are to see cash applied. But I haven't gone through this training, so I'm going to ask Jim for a quick tutorial, and I'll record that and send it out to everyone on looking at cash applied. Otherwise, a lot of these reports, we're still working on developing those, and as we're looking at it now, we really only have last week and this week we're looking at 6 days of sales history. So these will become more useful for us as we move forward, and that'll give us some time to make sure they're in good working order. As you come into the customer section here, if you're in New Jersey, this is where you could access co-ops. So if your customer is part of a co-op, you can click on co-ops. Obviously, it's not something available in New York, but if it were available and your customer was part of a co-op, this would give you your drop-down list of co-ops applicable.
Thanks.
Here we are on Clock Tower. If your customer has any allocations, you can click on Item Sales Allocations, and this will open up the allocation table. So here I can see Domaine de la Côte, Memorius, and Bloomsfield, starting date and ending dates. These are still open. We can scroll over and see that we had a 2-case and a 1-case allocation. Outstanding quantities, nothing is outstanding. It looks like these are all remaining, and none of them have shipped. So in this case, it looks like Ryan still has remaining quantities of 12 bottles and 6 bottles to put onto sales order. So this will be accessible to you on any customer. Item sales allocations, and if there's anything applicable, it'll show up here in your item sales allocations.
Dan, is there a way to manipulate the space that the ribbon takes up? Because right now under the customer, I can see all of the logos for those items, but I can't actually see what they represent.
It doesn't allow us to really adjust the sizing or spacing of the icons. It'll adjust to the size of your window. What I can probably do is if you see as I reduce the size of this, which might be more similar to what you're seeing on a laptop with a smaller screen than what mine is, it'll turn into these icons. As you get to know the icons, it'll become a little bit more familiar. What I can do in the meantime, I wanted to put as many things on the Home tab for you as possible so they were quick and easy to access without forcing you to go to some of these other tabs. What I may do is I may even remove some of these reports that might not be as applicable right now, so we have a little bit more space here for us.
Dan.
Yeah.
Can you show us how to create a report from inventory based on appellation, or and because I see when I go into this little filter up on the right, I've closed out the ones that you just had. I'm just using the main on the right here. I don't see how I could search under, say, Tuscany or a vintage and Tuscany.
Yeah. I'll show you that. So we'll see that. I think we're probably ready. I don't think there's much more for us to see here
I think filter is probably the most important thing to the salespeople.
Filtering, yeah. So I'll bring us through the item list in just one moment. There's one more thing I want to show you here on the customer screen, and then we'll go over to the items. Here on the Actions tab, there's one other field here that's quite useful for us. It's ledger entries. So Control F7 will always take you to entries. So because we're here on a customer card, customer ledger entries, this will show us open invoices and open credit memos. So from here, I could look and say, here's the invoice from 2/12. This is what looks like it's shipping out for tomorrow. So from here, I could show posted document, and this would open up my invoice. So one way is to access it by going to item ledger entries and finding the one that's most applicable. But if I know an individual posting date, I could look here and find the invoice posting date from 2/12 or 2/8/27. I can see this is an invoice here for a total of 528. I can show posted document, and this shows us invoice with the lines and invoice total here that was posted for 2/7. We're gonna move. Yeah, we'll move now to the item list, and I think Peter's scenario here is good. Let's take a look. The same functionality, what we had been doing, how we had been filtering, how we had been sorting, will all apply in the same way. There's a little bit more depth here because now we can also filter by attributes. But here's our item list. As a quick introduction to the item list, we can sort it in any way we want. Probably the most helpful is continuing to sort it the way it had been in NAV 5.0, which is by item number. Let's call that the conventional way. You could also sort by description. You could sort by availability. So if you want to look for items available, I could sort up and sort down on available quantity. So this is, again, leaps and bounds better than what we had before. That's the sorting capabilities. And if I wanted to filter, I can filter here as well. If I want to look for available quantity, here I could look for, let's say that I'm looking for something for, let's say that this is a retailer who's looking to make a mailing offer and they only want to buy something that has 50 cases or more in stock. So I could look for greater than 50, hit enter, and it's going to filter to items with just greater than 50 cases available in stock.
Is that more updated than PA?
Let's call them essentially the same, but this is NAV, so this is the source, if you will.
So it refreshes once a day?
No, this is live. This is live.
Okay.
So as customer service is putting in orders right now, it'll continue to tick away at available quantities.
All right.
So more up to date than Pocket Advantage. Pocket Advantage will always have a 5 to 7 minute lag. But yeah, this is the source. So this will be up to date every time you access it. So in the scenario that you're looking to, you can apply multiple filters. So if we wanted to look for items available in Tuscany, we could run that as a first sort here. So let's sort here. We can look by. That's not hard coded on here. Region will be an attribute. So one of the things that's new here beyond just the item, just the fields that are listed on an item card, and you can filter those by looking here. We can go filter by attributes. And if you drill down an attribute, it'll show you all the available attributes. I could scroll through here, or I can go to the full advanced table. This will show me all the attributes available. If I'm looking for region, I can click region. And here I can type in Tuscany and click OK. Let's look and make sure that Tuscany.
Dan, I'm sorry. I was looking at my computer. Where did you type in Tuscany? I didn't see that actually. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I typed in Tuscany here in the region code.
Gotcha.
It's not populating the way I want. So the way I'll troubleshoot this is I'll look up an item from Tuscany. So let's take a look here. I'll clear my filters. So let's go look. I'm searching for Chianti and available quantity. That's why that didn't work. Let's look in description and type in Chianti.
Why Chianti?
So here, if I'm in Chianti, I should be able to see any applicable attributes. I don't see.
You can't put Tuscany in, and I mean, Brunello, Vermentino, Rosso,
Yeah, appellation should work. Let's take a look here. If I actually let's do an advanced filter here.
I know it's case sensitive.
It is case sensitive too. So I want to see, in fact, if we take a look at this item. Well, we lost Tuscany, but let's type Chianti. So if we take Lucignano, so Lucignano Chianti, we should be able to find the item card. Control-Shift-R will open up our item card, and let's take a look. Region should be applied still on our item card.
If you click attributes on the top, would you see the actual attributes just by itself?
Yeah, so if I click attributes here, this will show me anything that's applied. And I guess I thought that we had a region filtered as an attribute. I think the region is actually something we report and is filed on COLAs. Therefore, it's listed, it's hard coded on the customer card. So these are all the attributes that are tagged here to Lucignano Chianti. And I can see the appellation here is listed as an attribute. But if I close this, I can see here hard coded on the customer card. In the custom tab is origin region code Tuscany. So now I can use this to help us run that filter here from the main item list. So I'm going to hit close, and here I'm going to escape. I'm going to delete Tuscany, and now I'm going to expand this filter down. I can add filters here. These filters that I select are all the fields that are available here in the item list, but I can access more fields if I click and open them up from here. So if I look, these are all the fields that are available in the item list currently, but if I go to all, we can look at region origin code, which is what had been hard coded on the customer card, on the item card. So this is in alphabetical order, and if I go to region, or was it origin region code? Let's take a look. Origin region code with a drop-down list. This is what we were looking for. So now I can scroll down all the applicable origin region codes. Here I can find Tuscany and click OK. Click enter, and it filters everything to Tuscany. So as you can see, even as much as I've been using the system, there's still some learning to find the fastest ways to do it. But anytime you're looking for something that might be applicable and you're running you want to run a search for Tuscany, pick an item from Tuscany and open up the card, and there you can see exactly what attributes are applied to that item. So here, if we open up Pian Rosso and we look at the item card, Control-Shift-R, we can see the item card, and here I can see that in custom this is country region of origin IT for Italy, origin region code Tuscany, and any attributes that are applicable. I can click on attributes, and this will show me everything that's been tagged here. Sangiovese, UPC code, portfolio, practicing organic, color red, appellation Brunello, agent indigenous.
Is there any way we can find out the container reports? What's coming in? When?
Yeah, so if we're looking, we'll look here, and we've actually got some education to do here on inventory because we've made some changes since rolling into the new system. So as we're looking here, let's give you an introduction to inventory. Available quantity is the same as it had been before. Sales limitations, open is open and limited is limited. We'll go into limit details shortly here to give you a little bit more information about how to use these. Quantity on sales order is the same as it had been before. Quantity on purchase order and quantity on transfer order. Quantity on transfer order is new for us. We've developed and integrated a new system, a transport module that gives us more transparency onto where our containers are and the status of our containers. So we'll talk a little bit more. Some of you are more familiar, some less, about our process of cutting a PO, getting it fulfilled from the supplier, and getting it here stateside. So in basic terms, as soon as we cut a purchase order here in the system, we'll see that quantity show up on quantity on PO. But that doesn't mean that the winery has even received it yet, has prepared the order, and in all that time, that quantity is going to stay quantity on PO. As soon as we've coordinated a pickup and that freight has been picked up from the winery, in that process, Skurnik Wines takes ownership of that product, and at that point, we consider it a transfer order. So at that point, it starts to go through its consolidation process, and at that point, once it's quantity on transfer order, that means that it's a more imminent quantity. So that means the date and ETA will, for the first time, really start to be applicable for us. In a way to try and keep the dates organized, anytime a brand manager cuts a new PO, the ETA by default is going to be 1 year out. So if someone cuts a PO today, the ETA on that PO would be 2/12/2020. So the idea is to push that out. We had to be able to give some value, so we're pushing it out 1 year out so that you will never look and be confused or see that date populate as an earlier date available than something that's actually imminent.
All right, but when will we get a relative real ETA? Because a lot of our customers build their buying power on a time frame.
Yep. So in a similar way to the way you clicked on quantity on purchase order, you'll be able to do that here in the new system. So quantity on transfer order. Let's look at an example here. Here, Chachi Pian Rosso, you have 150 cases on transport order. So again, just to finalize this process, once it then goes under quantity on transfer order, that's the time that it's being picked up from the supplier. It's getting to port, consolidated with other orders that we're picking up from Italy, and making the transatlantic route. It stays in transfer order even as it hits inbounds at Fond du Lac. As soon as it actually inbounds, is put away into its location, and they send us the report that it's available to ship, we will then flip that over to be quantity on hand. So just to give you an idea of what constitutes the quantity on transfer order. There is a new field that's going to combine quantity on PO and quantity on transfer order as the total incoming amount. And that is a field that's not finalized yet. It looks like it's not even on our screens yet, which is good. I'll introduce that to you shortly. But what it's going to show us is essentially the same as quantity on PO. If I have 150 cases here, unfortunately, if I click here, it's going to show me that here's my transport document, the same container, JT1903. But from transport order, I can't see the ETA. Where I can see the ETA is quantity on purchase order. Right now, the way you access is by looking at this blank line. But if I click on the blank line, it's showing me that the purchase order is still open. So I can see that this is on IT to Fond du Lac. This is on transport from Italy to Fond du Lac with an ETA of 2/18. In order to make this easier on the eyes and easy for everyone to access, the new field is going to be called quantity incoming, and it's going to combine 150 plus 0 to be quantity incoming 150. And when we drill down, it's going to look like this. You'll see the container consolidation, JT1903, and you'll see expected receipt date of 2/18. I'm going to look and find us an example of something that has both quantity on transport order and quantity on purchase order. So in this case, Chachi Rosso. Once we get this fully developed with Western, with our developers, the quantity incoming in this case would be 230. So 115 would be on purchase order and 115 on transport order. When we drill down, this is the screen that we would see, quantity on purchase order. If I drill down here I'll see outstanding 115. Total quantities here, I have 100 plus 15 free goods, 100 plus 15 free goods. Here I see an expected receipt date of 2/25/19. So this is due here in 14 days.
Will that also show what is already spoken for?
Yep, so reserved quantity, if there were any reserved against this, it would show up here. And here I can see that we have another PO for 115 cases. Here we have another PO for 115 cases. You can see that this expected receipt date is not imminent because the date here is 2/6/2020. Once it starts to go through some consolidation process and Anthony and Taryn in our logistics department touch the PO, they will then update that to something more like 6 weeks out, and then we'll know that that's a follow-up under a consolidation process, and that quantity would then be flipped from quantity on PO to quantity on TO. The other great benefit here of keeping it in one column is that we will use this to map to Pocket Advantage. Currently, your field on order in Pocket Advantage is only showing quantities on purchase order. It's not showing the quantities on transport order. Therefore, your quantity on order, both the ETA and the quantities, are not reflective of what's actually due to come in. So it should be this week that we get this finalized and wrapped up with Western. Once we have that one singular field totaling in this case, all 230 cases, and the logic which has always existed for picking your expected receipt date is the earliest available expected receipt date. So in this case, it would tell you 2/25 is the expected receipt date and a total of 230 cases coming. And if you drill down here in NAV, if there were any reservations against it, you would see a reserved quantity. If there were 5 cases here, you would see 5 cases reserved against this 100. So this is something that we'll send another video and training on, because this is a new process for everyone in NAV that we rolled out with the NAV18.
Hey, Dan.
Yeah.
Could you do the same for Prosecco della Contessa? Because
Yeah.
I was just using it because I know this is an item that we're all waiting for. And now that I'm looking at it, it looks a little odd as to the ETA, and I'm just wondering if you could maybe explain it to me.
Yeah.
Because it's showing that the ETA is actually on 2/1, and then which obviously is not, it's really the 2/14, which is the expected date.
Yeah.
Mine has 2. When I click on quantity on purchase order, there's 2 lists, not just one. It shows.
Okay, so in this case, it looks like we have 480 on transfer order and 560 on PO. So if I drill down on the 560, I'll see here.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah. So if we look here, it looks like 2/1 expected receipt date and 2/14 expected receipt date. It looks like we still have outstanding 560 cases on this PO. Let's see if it'll allow me to show the document. I think from our permissions, we're not going to be able to see the actual purchase order. What it looks like here is there's 560 that have not yet inbounded. This expected receipt date was likely copied over during the go live transition. So that expected receipt date probably should have been manually updated by someone, and Taryn probably has not manually updated this. So if we give her a prompt, I'm going to guess that this outstanding quantity has not been consolidated. What we're looking at here is that we're actually looking at these 480 with an ETA of 2/14. This looks like what's here for us. So in this case, I can get off this phone call and ask Taryn and the Italian portfolio to update this, because this expected receipt date should actually be changed to be outstanding. I can verify this by clicking close, and if we look here, we'll see that 480, we see a 2/14 expected receipt date, and 560 with a 2/1 date. And here I see 480 on transfer order, so that means it's imminent. And if I click on that, I can even see what container it's on, JT 1902, 400 cases in transit, 480 in transit. and here I see the 560 on PO, and this outstanding quantity of 560 means it hasn't even gone through the consolidation process yet. So what you're looking at here is a human error of not updating that date.
Gotcha.
So for something that we're obviously imminent and looking at, this would be one that I would make sure, the Italian portfolio should be aware of this, and if they see it, they should ask Taryn to make that update. But when I get off this call, I'm putting a note here for myself to update IT VDS 05 NV. So we get that updated. In this situation, once that's updated, when we map this to Pocket Advantage, you would then see a total of 1,040 cases, and you would see an ETA of 214, because that would then be the earliest expected receipt date. So I'll send another maybe quick demo just of this kind of portion alone. Once we add in this new field, quantity incoming. I spent a couple hours working with the developers last week, and we got pretty close. So I just need to follow up with them, and I expect that should be completed this week. Quantity on sales order will function very much like it did in the old system. So I can see based on Ryan's sales orders, I can click on the 24.1, and there are 24 cases on sales order, but it looks like under Ryan's profile, he doesn't have any customers with sales orders. If you had customers who were part of this 24.1, you would then be able to see your reservations against the PO or against the TO. Just as a confirmation, SST has been instructed to make sure that when they're making reservations for something that you're back ordering, right now if you're putting in a back order against Della Contessa, they are going to be reserving against the transfer order, because that is going to be more imminent. So they're not reserving against the PO; they'll be reserving against the transfer order. So here we're going to release this filter on Contessa. There's also so this is our item list. Again, the functionality works the same. You can sort and filter by any of these quantities. If you wanted to just see things that are coming in soon, you can filter on quantity on transfer order, and you can see all these things that are coming. If I want to scroll and see when this 150 cases of Thorin White is coming in, quantity on purchase order, I can see expected receipt date of 2/18. One thing you'll see, which is a new modification we also built in here as a way to be more helpful and more transparent, is you can see that Turley here is limited. A limited item with a sales limitation detail of yes, and instead of just telling you limited yes or no, as I had in the old system, we wanted to give you a little bit more clarity. So this is I think a really good update for you. We've classified all of our limited items into categories based on inventory. So in this case, quantity on sales order and quantity on transfer order, you see medium. We have highs, mediums, lows, and LOS for last of stock. So I'll give you some examples of items limited with some of those. Let's do a filter here, sales limited, sales limitation. So if you're sorting on some limited items, this will give us a quick snapshot of all the stuff that's out there. So when we say that something is limited and availability is high, let's not kid ourselves that there's a lot of this for us to go and grab, but I'll give you the parameters for what these all mean. Anything that's listed as high means that there are 120 bottles or more in available. Now, this is limited and limited by customer, so you still have to have an allocation here. This would only be accessible by allocation. But you can also see that quantity on sales order, there are lots of them on sales orders, and quantity on hand is high. So this means there's greater than 120 bottles in stock. If you look here for anything that's listed as medium, anything as medium is listed as anything between 36 bottles and 119 bottles. So essentially 3 cases to 10 cases. Anything listed as low is anything between 12 bottles and 35 bottles, essentially between 1 case and 3 cases. And anything listed as LOS, as last of stock. So in this case, the Julien Vidal, Vouvray, the Comte Marc is LOS. It means that there's less than 12 bottles. So the same limitations apply if something is customer allocated or off-premise quantity met, or there's a channel allowance for off-premise. You still have to respect those, and I'll show you right here from these pages how we can access that. But this will give us some more transparency. I think we really saw the need, especially for on-premise customers who are dealing with off-premise quantity met items. They were looking and saying, I see something available as yes. But yes could have meant that there was only 1 bottle available, which meant it didn't really make sense to offer to a restaurant. A restaurant might come back to you and say, okay, I'll take a case, or maybe it's a case for a special event or for a party. They're looking for 6 bottles, and then you'd come back with an answer, there's only 1 or 2 bottles left in stock. So this is a means to try and give everyone a little bit more transparency as to what's actually here. If you see LOS and you want to know how many bottles are left, you still got to check in with the brand manager, but brand manager will then say, yeah, last of stock, this is a broken case, we got 4 bottles left. If you want it, it's open for you. So if we want to look at something like Thibaut Bourguignon, we can see the allocation. So we can see it's high. There's more than 120 bottles in available stock. And available stock, the way the French portfolio, if you have an allocation, they don't put it onto a sales order for you. They leave it open, available. And as customers renege on their offers, they'll close the allocation period and roll into a second round of allocations. So that's why it still looks as available.
What about items that are just limited and then there's no LOS, low, high, just says limited?
So for these, like where there's nothing else there, anything limited like Coyote means that there's nothing in available stock. Looks like there is some quantity on hand. But if it's limited without any details, it means that the brand manager probably hasn't populated the information. It probably means that this is still on customer allocation. They're still populating all this. So if you find a situation like this and you see quantity and you don't see that it's customer allocated, I would send a note or ping over to the brand manager and say, I see, quota without any allocation method. What's the allocation method? It'll be a good prompt to make sure they fill out all this information out. If it's not filled out, it's worth you asking the question.
Dan?
Yeah.
There are 2 things that don't seem to be listed. 1, monthly sales limitations, case limitations, and 2, restaurant-only wines. Can you speak to that?
Yeah. So let's take a look. Let's take a look for an item that would apply to. Let's look at maybe Ashes and Diamonds. Ashes and Diamonds Cab Franc Napa Valley. So this is limited, and there's a limit detail behind it. So I can see the yes. If I click on yes, it'll tell me that on-premise, it's open with a 2-case order limit. And off-premise, there's a customer allocation, but the customer allocation is not active. So that means this is with an order limit of 1 case. The channel allowance has not been met, and there are 7 cases and 11 bottles remaining for off-premise customers, with a 1-case order limit per customer. So there's more depth in here than we were able to see in the old system. What we're still working on, and David Skurnick, who's really been captaining this allocation change in method, we're looking for a way to be able to find us a quick report that could show you items that are off-premise allowance that have not been met. But up until this point, we don't have a quick report that you can run. So you'll still have to check in with brand management. But as I said, this is something we wanted to make sure the nuts and bolts of ONS to get a quick list. Right now, you would have to look at this item and you would have to open up the sales limitation in order to see this information. So you could click on this item by item and find those levels of detail. So if we look at Costalina, I can look and I can see this is off-premise is still allocated by customer, and on-premise it's open. No order limits and no channel allowance is met. So that means off-premise is still customer, and we can tell that the customer is real because it's marked as active. And on-prem, there's no order limit and no remaining quantity because it's an open allocation. If you look at something that's allocated on both, probably chart on taille le bar. If we click on this, you'll see on-premise and off-premise are both customer allocated, and therefore the only ways you'll be able to get the items is there's no off-premise or on-premise open. Both are customer allocated.
Thank you.
So there's certainly more information in here. We'll make it more easily navigable for you, but the idea is we want to give you more information here so you can make more informed decisions. This kind of list here as well. Once you're able to filter that to know what's available for on-premise or even off-premise before quantity is met, you would then be able to take these kind of lists and send this over to your customers with a little bit more information for you to understand what's available. I wouldn't send them fields like LOS, low, medium, or high, especially because they're not going to look at it with the context of what 120 bottles means to the company. But certainly for you to have an understanding when you're offering something out to say to a restaurant that you've got stock, medium, it means that there's a few cases here. And if I look and I see that this is on-premise open, I know here that there must be at least 3 cases. So that's the kind of information you could then use to make an offer to an on-premise customer. As we scroll over to the right here, so this is information that's related to sales limitation and availability. We looked at quantity on sales order, quantity on purchase order, transfer order. For anyone upstate, you've also got a field here for quantity on hand and DNT Clyde. And then we've got New York pricing. We just went up to the 10 case prices. 1 case to 10 case price in New Jersey, Connecticut 1 case, Pennsylvania on-prem pricing, and our reviews. The reviews are concatenated. One of the requests we got in the demo on Friday was if we can separate these out, so not separate them out, but make them at least sortable so that you could look for anything that has a Wine Spectator review or anything that has a Venice Media review. So we're working on finding some more availability for that. Right now they're concatenated, which is helpful to see them together. But as far as filtering or sorting within those, we don't have that capability yet, but that's on our task list. This is all the item list. Again, you have the item attributes here. If you wanted to know your prices, all your prices are available here. Your quick list of all the prices are here. If you wanted to know what the full price is available, including the 16 case prices, the 25, the 28, the 56, the 112s, 250s, all those prices are available if you access this using Item List Pro. So the idea is very similar to what the item list is currently, which is something that's quick to navigate. The more fields you have here, the longer it takes for this table to populate as you do any searches or filtering within here. If you were to click on Item List Pro, the functionality exists in the exact same way. You've got filters here that you can apply. These are all the fields available. So to give you a quick preview of all the fields, you can see New Jersey pricing that scrolls all the way to 250. Connecticut, you've got 1 bottle, 1 case, and suggested retail price. Pennsylvania, you have all the different price break codes for SLO and on-premise. And then you have hard-coded item card fields and attributes that are mapped here. So here you can find origin region code. So we were looking at Tuscany. That would be populated here if you wanted to filter it within the list and not having to manually type in those filters. Portfolio, region, color, bottle color, can, RS level, screw cap, variety, UPC. All this information is available here. And as you scroll over left and right, you can see the full table of all the availability, sales limitations, reviews, and then we get into the master lists of pricing. Again, your item list for quick reference here is accessible. This is especially helpful as you're looking through Maybe you're scrolling through inventory to see something you might want to pull as a sample, and maybe you're looking and maybe this is more targeted towards Matt Barsowitz. As you're scrolling through, you see something here without Connecticut pricing. You see this isn't registered for Connecticut, so this is kind of a quick way of looking to find Connecticut pricing. If you want to look for registration in Connecticut, you could also go to Connecticut, and you could sort on CT pricing, or you could filter on anything, Connecticut pricing greater than 1. You can also filter for any field. If any of you are looking for cases at 240 and less, you could run a filter like that. Here, let's look for local CT case price of greater than 1. This will filter out so that all the selections I see here have Connecticut pricing, which this is a huge step in being able to see things that are registered within your state. So this is a function I think that's going to be quite useful for everyone. If you're in a state like New York and New Jersey, where most of our local business, most items are registered in both of those states, this is still a useful function to sort through and say, okay, let's look for something in one case price under 300.
Dan, can you sort that further, like Cabernet now?
Yeah. So let's do under 300, and let's add a filter. Let's add a filter for. Let's go to all fields and scroll down to variety. So we'll go varietal, and we'll type in Cabernet. So here's everything under $300 case price with varietal tagged Cabernet Sauvignon. If you didn't believe the tags, but you wanted to go by description, you could also search by description. So you could say, okay, well, maybe there's some items here that don't look like they're showing up, but I know that it's, it should at least be in the item description. I could type in star Cabernet. And here I find everything that's tagged Cabernet. Now, if I find this is showing me too many things like Cabernet Franc, I could extend that further and go Cabernet Sauvignon star. But this is a way I could filter that further. If I wanted to go further and I said, okay, I want to find Cabernets that are not from the U.S., I could add in another filter. I could filter on item number, and I could go exclude US star. Now it removes all Cabernets from US. So again, a pretty dynamic table, and what you're able to get here is powerful, I think. If you want to take this information and export it to Excel, again, you can go to this drop-down arrow here, print and send to Excel. I will caution you that anything that has pricing and availability, there is one bug here left to work out. It's that it's copying everything from the first line, so it's showing everything as available quantity 0. Because that's whatever this first line was. If I copy all this data, Control A, and go into, right now it's formatted as text. If I update it to general, it updates everything into bottle quantities. The base unit of measure for everything in NAV is bottles, so this updates everything to bottles. Once we get this updated, this will work correctly. It'll get pulled over as general, but this is always going to show up as bottles. If you wanted to look at this information, availability here, not in bottle formats, we could close this and we'll open up a new session of Excel. What you could do is you could take all this information, and if you Control A to select it all, instead of Control C as we used to use, which is Control Copy, the function is now actually Control Shift C to copy all rows. I can copy all rows and open this up into a workbook and paste. I can paste into Excel. I hit Control V, and this pastes everything in Excel very much like it used to in NAV 5.0, with everything listed here in the case formatting. So 62 cases of one bottle, 62 till day one. So this, if you copy and paste into Excel, you can get the case formatting as you see here. But because these are all functions of flow filters, they all come from a base of bottles. So if you export this using the Excel export, it's going to send everything over first with the quantities of whatever was on your top field. If this was 0, everything will show up as 0. But if you change it over to general instead of text, you'll get all the bottle quantities. We're working to update that with the developers to make sure that at least the bottle quantities show up. And the dream here is to get it updated so that it actually pulls over case quantities. But again, this is pretty powerful then to be able to take all this information and send it out to a customer with all this information filtered as you like. So Item List and Item List Pro working essentially the same way, just many more fields available for us here in Item List Pro. We'll take a look at the item list again as we transition here into sales orders. So here I can look at all the sales orders that Ryan has open. Being that we're doing this report at the end of the day, there's not much in with the ship date of tomorrow. But what we can see here is all the sales orders that are tagged to him. So I can see sales order, the customer status, open or released, shipment date, total amounts, credit class, shipping agent code, ship to names, default ship to codes. This will always show us whether a sales order is open or released. It has to be released in order for it to be postable. So clock tower, there's nothing on it. You can see a $0 balance, but this is not open. So this would prevent it from posting if there was something on it. But if we wanted to look and see the shipping status, you could take a sales order and click View or Control Shift R, and this will open up the sales order. To give you an idea, so here if we look, this is the sales order number here at the top, our customer number, this is the hold order type, which works in the same way as it does before, always not shipping. Here it looks like we have a 5-case hold for Heedler Los. This was entered here on 2/1, so this was entered during the go live transition. So the only way to check on the shipping status of any of these items would be to open up and see the individual line listed as not shipping. If I close this sales order, I can see here that all of these are released. I can see here this is a hold order type. Maybe I want to look for something here like Michael's with a 2/15 date. Maybe this is an order with a future shipping date. If I open this up, Control Shift R or View, I can see here a not shipping order for Cayuse, God only knows, 1 case. If I want to scroll to the next one in the series of sales orders under Brian's name, I can scroll next. And I can see another SO for Michael's Restaurant, also not shipping. This one's for Hirsch Reserve Pinot. So this is the same function of those radio buttons before that you could scroll previous and next. And I can see all the sales orders in here. Everything he's got is not shipping. It seems that any shipping orders he probably had in posting for a ship date for 2/12. If any of you are looking to run kind of a sales order review for yourself, we've actually going to program with Nicole and Andrew Shapiro an update to get you some information. The best way we really have for sales order review right now is to run through Jet reports. Speaking with the group on Friday, we came to a consensus that it would be helpful to get sales order reviews 2 times a day, once as early as possible in the morning, so sometime between 6 and 8 in the morning. The thing we want to make sure is that the credit review process has already happened. So if any of your customers were on or coming off COD, we want to do it once the SLA or ABC has refreshed in NAV so that any of your credit class codes are up to date. And as soon as that happens, running this, so it might be something a little bit later, like 8 o'clock in the morning, but getting this updated and sending you your first sales order review for the day, so you can see anything that's in for the next day's ship date. And then doing that again in Connecticut at 12:30, giving you an hour before final cutoff to review any orders that are still in the system and set to shipping. And for everyone else, for all other markets, sales order review at 3:15. And running that at 3:15 would give you the availability to see sales orders that are still marked as shipping as of 3:15. And if you need to make any adjustments, that would be the time to catch them. Know, of course, as you know, that we run transmissions throughout the course of the day, so that won't be a full list. Your midday midday daily runs will show you what I've posted up until 2 o'clock. And at 4:30, you'll be getting your daily end of day daily runs. But let's say that you were skeptical that something hadn't shipped. You could always come in here and you can filter on ship dates. So let's say that in this, I wanted to run ship date, and I want to see anything less than 2/12/2019. So anything greater than that date. Actually, maybe I'm looking for less. Less than 2/12/2019 to see what might have not shipped. So if I look here, I can see these are all orders that, for the most part, should be set to not shipping. I see a couple hold orders; those obviously will not ship. If I look at Hillstone, I can see here not shipping. Weimer, the Vine, Humphrey, also not shipping. So this would be a way that if I filter just on, tomorrow's date or earlier, less than, then I can see everything that had a ship date that date or earlier and make sure that nothing got held up. We're not going to be able to see whether an order is shipping from this line, from this field here, because individual lines are shipping, not the sales order. So there's no way of knowing whether the Vine is a shipping order. It's an individual line. You might have one line shipping and one line not, and here the system wouldn't be able to tell you that it's a shipping order. So for that, it works very much like the old system. You can see a list of all your sales orders. But what's helpful here is you can filter. You can filter by dates, and that would give you a good way of being able to understand what's a potential shipping order. Again, you also have some quick reference boxes here on the right. Customer statistics. If we're looking at the Vine or Hillstone, any of these customers, it'll populate your customer number, outstanding balance, credit limit, and overdue amounts. And it'll also give you some quick customer details here. If we want to look at any of these orders, again, we've been doing it by going to Manage and clicking View. If I wanted to print one of these sales orders, let's say that I wanted to print this hold for Tamarind Tribeca, I could go to Print Confirmation and print to PDF. Open as PDF. And from here, I could send it off. To a customer email. I could also print and send it off to a printer. And these I can do without even having to open up the individual sales order. It's not as if I have to go in, view it, and while I'm viewing it, go to print confirmation. I can do that directly from the list, which is a nice function, which means sometimes it'll help us reduce the number of clicks. If we want to look at some other information that might be on a sales order, we looked here at the general. We saw shipment dates. We saw shipment dates and posting dates. Salesperson code. External document number is where the customer PO goes. So if you know that you have sales orders in and a PO should be marked and it's not, this is where you would see that, and you could alert SST to go and make an update here for you. All of our lines, the same kind of information applies. Quantity, 4 cases, unit of measure, shipping status, quantity reserved. We do have a new field here that's taking into account that quantity is coming from purchase order and from transfer orders. So quantity from inbound is the field that we're using to say that it's reserved either from PO or TO. You also have here quantity from purchase order and quantity from requisition order. If it's reserved from inventory, that means it's in stock and ready to ship. If you have quantity available from inbound, reserved from inbound, you could then drill down on that number, and it would show you where the reservation is.
Reservation? Till what time? Okay, all right.
If you scroll here over to the right, you can see the individual unit prices, and based on 4 cases, 156 times 4 brings you to 624.
All right, I'm watching this tutorial. So 530 still, right? Okay.
So this is all the information on the sales order line, pretty standard and similar to what we had before. Shipping and billing, we might have accessed this earlier or looked at it maybe on the customer card. Here you can see the default. This is where it's set up as a ship to. If the customer had an alternate ship to address, you could see all the additional ship to addresses listed here. In this case, Hillstone doesn't have an alternate ship to, but this would give you a quick confirmation if you knew that it should be. If you have a customer who's shipping either to a store or warehouse and you want to make sure it's mapped correctly, you could drop down here to make sure you see the correct default populated. Custom is another one where you'll see a lot of information. Probably not so editable for you, not always applicable, but it'll be helpful here. This is where you'll see credit class codes. Here's where you'll see if we mark it as a bill and hold order. But once it's a bill and hold order, we should be posting it directly, and you'll see it enter as a bill and hold ledger entry. And instructions will probably be the last field that we would find editable. Invoice comments are internal. So any notes that we need to leave for approval for late credit holds, notes internally that we're keeping on the order, and delivery instructions are the ones that print on the invoice. So these are the permanent delivery instructions. If you see these and you see them set up by a customer and you need an update, you can always let SST know, and they can make those updates for you. This is also where it'll show you the person who entered the order, date created 1/31. You can see who created it and the last person to edit. I think that probably covers us on sales orders. I'm trying to see if there's anything else for us to review. I think that's good on sales orders. If you have bill and hold orders, you'd be able to access them here. If you click on bill and hold orders, you can open them up. You can view. So if you're looking here at grand sellers, you could see on each individual line, it looks like they purchased 10 cases of Helix 1 liter and 5 cases of Conquia. You can see the total quantity shipped, and 9 shipped out of the 10 means 1 quantity still outstanding. So from here, you'd be able to access the same information that Matt DeMarco is looking at when posting bill and hold orders. You can see all these are fully shipped except for 2 cases remaining of the Genie Suave Classico. One other aspect for us to talk about here is sales return orders. Return orders is a little bit of a departure from what we have been doing in NAV 5.0, and this is really us a matter of correction. A credit memo we are now only using when we're directly crediting the account for anything non-inventory related. So if we are crediting for a price adjustment, crediting back a delivery fee, crediting back for a broken bottle, we're not moving any inventory. We're going to post that directly as a credit memo. Otherwise, these are going to be entered as sales return orders. The reason here is that a sales return order, in fact, creates an expected inbound so that brand managers could tie something up. I'm sure many of you have gone through a scenario where we end up shipping the last of someone's hold. You know, there's 10 cases on hold. We ship all 10. We only meant to ship 2. And then we have to instruct Rita to put those 8 cases back on the customer's original sales order when that comes back into stock. Well, now we have a mechanism to make sure that happens. So we could enter a new sales order and reserve off the return order. And this way, the brand manager can see, even if we think something is sold out, but we see that someone recently sent 12 cases instead of 12 bottles, we'll see 11 cases coming back on a sales order return. This would give us the ability to know that's coming back and to make reservations against it. So other than knowing that that exists, the sales support team will be sending you sales return orders instead of sales credit memos. Otherwise, the difference is relatively insignificant for you. If we look at this one for Cafe Europa, it functions in very much the same way. Purpose of return, this is a refusal, and the purpose of return is other. It's a refusal. If it were a pickup, then someone could mark that this is a pickup because of customer error, order entry error, pricing, quality, what have you, and would get marked just in the same way that they're currently getting marked in NAV 5.0. Posted sales invoices. Posted sales invoices will show you everything that posted. If you want to look at full invoices that are not tied necessarily to one customer. If you wanted to look at posted sales invoices for grand sellers, because let's say grand seller says, I want to look at every invoice that I've got in the system or from a specified date range. I could filter here to customer. I could type in grand. And let's say that I'm looking here within grand sellers, and I just want to look at those from 2/5 on. So here I'm looking shipment dates of 2/5 on because these I know we have printed invoices here in NAV. These are residual invoices that got carried over from the old system. And that's why you can see they don't have a sales order number that corresponds with them. These were brought over just as informational because we still had outstanding invoice totals from 5.0. But maybe actually for a better example, let's look at anything with a shipment date specifically to 2/5. Customer wants invoices for everything that came on 2/5. So I can look at shipment date and enter 2/5, 2019. And let's filter again to customer grand sellers. So here's everything that's shipped 2/5. If I control A, so that selects everything, and I go to actions and print, I can then go print to PDF. And because I've selected each of these, it's going to tabulate into one file here on a PDF. Each of the invoices. So here's grand sellers, all dated 2/5. Here's one of the invoices. Here's the bill and hold shipment that went out that day. No dollars, but still a receivable. Here's another bill and hold release. Bill and hold invoice rather. Bill and hold shipment, so $0. Bill and hold shipment, $0. So this is a really great way of being able to take everything from a specific date range. And sometimes you get those requests from customers and they say, I need a PDF of an invoice. And maybe they say, I need a PDF of all the invoices I got you from the period of an entire month or a specific date. And now you've got the capability of not only getting those, but you can even print them all into one single document. And from here, you can send them off via email. If we want to look at any one of them individually, you can click on them, click view, and they'll open up, and you'll see all the same information, just like we were looking on a sales order. Now it's a sales posted invoice. You can see the original SO number, invoice number, posting date, and all the line details here. Posted sales credit memos. You may still have some posted sales credit memos. These here you'll see one for shorts. If anything was posted to shorts, you would still see it here. If we want to look and see, we have a $90 credit here. This was a $90 credit for empty keg returns. So if someone were looking for outstanding credits, as long as it's not inventory coming back into stock, this is where they would show up. So anything in intervals of 30, generally those are empty keg returns. If someone was looking, Marakia, if they were looking here to see a copy of their credit from their shorts, we can view and see that this was 13 bottles short for St. George Nemea from Skouras. We can go in, print, and send them a PDF. That's confirmation that they got their short. I think that brings us, well, there's one other area. Maybe I'll show you while we're here. Clock Tower. I think on this original, we were on customers. One of the things I didn't show you is give kind of a quick shortcut to some open sales orders, sales return orders, posted sales invoices for the customer you got selected. So we've been using Clock Tower as an example. If I wanted to look, I could see posted sales invoices. If I click on the 10, this will show me all the posted sales invoices that are in for this customer. If I want to look at all the open sales orders that this customer has, I'll see 3 that are related to Clock Tower. I click on the 3, and it'll show me the 3 open sales orders in here for Clock Tower. So, you know, what's pretty nice is as you're scrolling through this customer list, you don't even have to open the customer to see this kind of information. You can quickly see their balance and some of their customer stats. You can see posted sales invoices, ongoing sales orders. Up top here, you can look at their allocations. You can see their individual item ledger entries. If you go to actions, you can look at their customer ledger entries. You could look at statistics, co-ops that are part of. There's a lot really here you can cover just from this page without even drilling down or opening up a customer. But certainly a lot of different ways to access the same information. I guess we're getting close to the end here. I think we might have covered. It looks like I've covered everything that was on my agenda. Does anyone else have any questions, thoughts, concerns? If not, I appreciate everyone taking the time to spend the evening with me. I hope this has been helpful. Like I said, this is not the final version, but what you've got here is a really good working version. And you know, I appreciate you guys having the patience. I know we're looking at this now 10 days after go live. What we really want to do is make sure that, you know, this last week, even along with the office teams, we've been continuing to tweak and refine some of these processes, tweak and refine these fields, and make sure they're in good working order. We didn't want to get you trained before we went through the go live transition and realized we were going to make some updates and give you information that had to be updated. So everything here is in a good set format, and we'll continue to make updates. As we introduce new features, we'll let you know. I'll basically be doing this as, instead of inviting people to a meeting, I'll be able to use this same kind of platform to record some videos, and I'll be recording, you know, videos between 3 and 5 minutes, so they're easily digestible, and I'll give them good appropriate titles, so it's easy enough to navigate your way through.
All right, great. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, thanks everyone for your attention. If you have any questions about what we did, you can always reference this. I'm going to save it tonight and post it onto YouTube. Apparently, Cernic, we have a YouTube account, so I'll post it on there and share the link with everyone here. And if you have follow-up questions, please feel free to ask me. But SST has gone through a lot of these trainings. Brand managers are getting more and more familiar here. So if you have questions and you're on the phone in a particular situation, feel free to ask the person on the other end of the phone. They very well may know the answer and be able to help you right there on the spot. But if you run into any roadblocks, if you run into any permission issues for something you know you used to have permission to access or something you feel like you should, let me know. Reports, we're working on it to get those up to date. Nicole and Nicole finished all the salesperson workbooks last week, and I think most of those went out. I know there were a couple hiccups in getting some of the data up and out today. We will continue to work on sales order reviews, but at least for the meantime, we wanted to get you 2 sales order reviews a day, once in the morning and once an hour before cutoff. So those should be working for you. And any kind of stock status, what you've got here is highly customizable, so you can really run them in the formats as you need. Thanks, everyone. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll be available offline. Shoot me a note. Appreciate everyone's time. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye, Dan.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Bye.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Dan.
My pleasure. Thank you.